Symphony backers, you have just watched, or I don't know when you watched it, whenever the hell you did, was Jolene, written by Rena Hinsey for Miskatonic May on Symphony Entertainment's platform. And now I'm going to get out of the way so we can jump into this talkback, because I'm sure we all have lots of things to say.
Number one, big fucking ups to Carl for the really good fucking questions.
Hell yeah.
Thank you.
Fantastic questions.
Like, I'm not one to blow smoke up anybody's ass. Those were great fucking questions.
Big time.
Yeah, those were phenomenal. Yeah.
No one has ever asked the drowning question before.
Really?
Nobody.
It's such a good one.
Like, no one has ever asked that. And I was just like, woohoo, yes, that's fantastic.
You asked it, and it was like, yeah, that's a great fucking question. Why haven't we asked that?
I felt dumb for not asking it by the time we asked it.
It had the presence of a question of like, that's a very fucking good question. Like, that's a very reasonable question. Why haven't we not asked that?
It is.
It helps that I decided to think that at like 40 minutes till end time for proper dramatic effect.
Hey, it worked. It worked.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest. I completely lost track of time.
Good.
Like utterly and completely. Like I knew time was passing because like I watched the sun go down.
Yeah.
I will say that like I tend to run my games here at the house on Sunday afternoons, and then we just play all the way through. Like we forget to take a break. Yeah. And sometimes that's just the best way to do it, where you don't plan to not take a break, but then like no break happens. You're like, God, we were really in there for 4 hours. Are you fucking kidding? Like,
yeah.
It's great. It's like you can just get into the meat of it and just go to town.
Oh, that's good to hear. Because I was like, is anyone needing a break with that?
Yeah. No. This sped through.
Mm-hmm. There are like other locations and things like the library and so on, but I reorganized a few things to make sure you got everything you needed without having to go to other places.
Yeah.
So you didn't miss anything major, really, because that's not how I operate. I make sure things can get moved. So if we'd had longer, we could have gone longer. But y'all hit all the major beats, which is awesome.
Dude, that drown with me line, or I would drown my soul for her, is some of the dopest shit ever. Amazingly haunting lines.
Pucho's face.
Dude, Bridget and I both put that fucking line up in the chat. Like, drown with me. Like, I put that shit in caps. That's a good line. That's a real good one.
Also, another really cool thing I thought was flagged out was Perry dropping a line from the Quran and Carl picking it up. I was just like, I fucking love people in this moment.
It was really cool because the way I wrote the pre-gen is Alex, the partner, has a Quran, and so Xavier has their partner's Quran, and people very rarely use it. So it was really awesome to have it be used in the game.
I was just gonna say, like, Perry is always like, I know that if I need somebody to fucking lean on a text, Perry's gonna fucking do it
every time.
Perry is the dude to lean in on the text every fucking time.
Every time.
All the way.
Thank you.
Every time.
And I was scrolling through the quote page I was at trying to find what would work well for here.
Bro, every time you said something, I was like, this motherfucker is pissing me off at how good he is at finding the right quote for this moment. Like, I hate him.
That's a skill set. It is a skill, honey.
It is a skill set. It's huge.
Harry was quoting the Quran. You were sniffing things. I mean,
Bucho, you and the goddamn sniffing.
Look, because of the topic, because of the things that we talked about pre-stream, I was like, I'm me. I'm gonna want to make something funny about this. I have to, and my dude, like, based on his shit that's on his character sheet, like, there are ways that I could lean into other things that would make him very, like, not a comical character, but like he's not a like, it could very easily turn into a not serious person.
Yeah.
And I thought the smell just, like, in that moment,
perfect.
In the coffee shop, I was like, I have to lean into this Wes Anderson aspect of his fucking personality, and that's
I love that you did that. Like, as soon as you picked the character in pre-game when we were people were picking pre-gens, I was like, yes, that's the one I wanted Bucho to take, because Ricardo is the true believer. Like, he genuinely believes in all of this.
Yeah.
And he's also in a tiny underfunded department, so he's gotten a little weird about some things. So I'm really glad you took that and ran with it, because it was fantastic.
Dr. Ricardo.
He's a little woo-woo, but he's not like so woo-woo that you don't want to hang out with him, you know? Like, he doesn't have a favorite rock, but like he a little out there.
Also,
because
Carl, you walking out of the basement had to be one of the funniest moments in the stream for me.
That was great.
You're fuck this shit, I'm out. You was like, I'm done.
Deuces.
Yeah, I didn't want to be rude about that, but the character was like, nah, man, nah. Like,
Your window of tolerance was so low for Mike.
There was nothing rude about that moment at
It was
all.
so good.
Okay, good.
No.
Listen,
No.
Mike's meant to be annoying. He's over enthusiastic. He's over eager. He has nothing to do with his time because he's a trust fund kid. Like, his entire life is the Santa Cruz Society, and if he can get anybody he can fixate on and tell everything to, that's what he's going to do. He's meant to be annoying that way to investigators. So
he's a great NPC for an info dump for sure.
Oh God,
because he's like an unreliable narrator. So you're like, bro, like how much of this do I actually fucking
Oh God, how do I speed him up?
There's that too. Yeah.
Oh yes, and the moment where you was looking at the pizza and holding up the finger and saying the Scotch wasn't real was brilliant.
It's not real. Oh my God.
Santa Cruz, the Santa Cruz. Yeah, he's not real. He's not real.
He's not real. He's not real. He's not real. Oh. Also, Rena, your opening was really gorgeous. It was super scenic. I could literally smell the air. I could feel myself in the car. Your opening to this was really strong.
Awesome. It helps writing somewhere you live, I guess, and somewhere you really care about, but also where the surroundings have an emotional impact on you, like the poverty gap and all of that, because it really builds a lot into my descriptions and things for this scenario, because it's a very important, it's an important thing for me. Not only do I know the area, I care about this city a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so stark just across the entire fucking Bay Area. Like, it's so stark. Like, you cannot escape it no matter what part of the area you're in, like whether it's San Francisco, Santa Cruz, San Jose, Oakland, whatever. Like, it's everywhere.
And that was one of the things I played into a little bit with Jolene herself. It's the people she takes, the people she causes to fall in love with her, are people who would be quote unquote not missed. Like the people she takes their forms, like Lorena, the people who she sings her song to, because she only takes one from every town. She goes for people who aren't going to be missed in the traditional sense. Like, the cops aren't going to look for them, or they're just going to hand wave it. They're poor. They're from lower echelons of society. They're homeless. They're addicts, like all of these things. And she is the epitome of the have. And she takes the have-nots, which is something I tried to really play into, because that's something I really care about around here, living in the Bay Area, and just seeing that all of the time. That was a very important aspect for me as the writer.
As someone who doesn't live in that area, I felt very grounded in it and like really set the scene. So it was both a fascinating scenario and a pretty poignant story that I think you told beautifully.
Thank you.
Well said.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Perry.
Go ahead.
Nope. Go ahead.
Oh, I'll go then. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I feel like a teacher again. Like, okay, first you, then you.
Having play tested with Rena earlier, so I already knew what was going to happen. So I was sort of downplaying Xavier to let you guys shine. But it's also interesting because I realized when you mentioned the coffee shop, we had never done that in the previous game. So I made sure to try and push this in that direction so that we go into a different content and different experience as well. So there's also one of those subtle ways where if you do know the content, how can you help the keeper?
Yep.
Yeah, that was really great, because people rarely go to the coffee shop. So it was nice getting to actually play some of that out.
And then we fucked that scene up from start to finish, honey.
But that also meant how I played the other moments of Xavier had to be is like, okay, well, you still gotta have some relevance in this story, even if I'm not.
Well, Xavier's the one whose partner actually left with Jolene and died. And so Alex is always going to be speaking to Xavier at some point, whether in a puddle of water, in a fountain at the university, through the rain, whatever. So Xavier's always going to have that. Like everyone has a different thing that hits them from their connection to Jolene. And Xavier's is that his partner is in the water. Like his soul is all around in the water. And so that's always going to draw Xavier in, even when he's being quieter. So I really appreciate how you let me play with that and build some of that out while also giving a lot of spotlight to the other characters. So I really enjoyed having you play that character, Perry.
Perry, who did you have before?
I played Nurse Jacob.
Gotcha. Okay.
Cool. So
yes, Pucho.
I was going to say I'm not seeing it right now, but I'm also like 2.5 whiskeys in.
Good for you.
And they're large whiskeys.
Double good for you.
Because I don't fuck around. What was the like? What is the reasoning? What is the logic between Jolene taking on the people who coax our lovers away? Like,
So,
are they people of the homeless variety? Like, because I don't.
They're not always homeless. She takes people who won't necessarily be missed, like in the greater echelons. Like Lorena's a university student, and she was a college student who was on a scholarship and was pretty poor, right? So like, and also, you know, she's a student, so the cops are like, she just ran away with another boy or whatever.
Gotcha.
But if you look at your character sheets under your encounters with strange entities, each of you has a different description of Jolene.
I noticed that, yeah.
Each partner encountered a different one. And so what Jolene does is, because like a Selkie, she steps out of a human form back into the ocean or into the running water. And then she doesn't have that form anymore because she had to cast it off to return to being water. And so everywhere she goes, she needs a new human form.
Yeah.
Because because humans can't live underwater. They can't breathe, and she has to be connected to water. So if she takes a human form into the water, that's why all of these women popped up drowned, essentially, as soon as she left town, because she left their bodies, became water again, flowed out to the ocean or a river or wherever, and took another body.
That makes sense because I kept looking at my description of who Jolene was, and I was like, but that doesn't match.
That ain't the picture we got on our phone.
Usually people all go at that first picture from Dot. They all go, wait, but I think she looks like this, and I think she looks like this, and I think she looks like this, and it usually devolves a little bit into, wait, who the fuck is right here?
Right.
Like, is it the same one? And it usually triggers a sand roll for people because they cannot put that image together.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So that's on the character sheets.
That's when I was intentionally staying quiet on.
Yeah.
And it's
to
hilarious.
See if else would figure it out.
Because I read the description and then immediately just didn't care about it anymore. Like I read it, I was like, and I'm done. And then Bucho jumped in with like, well, I've never met this woman before. I hadn't heard of her. I was like, oh, well, that's probably the same with me. I've never actually seen her before. Totally forgetting that 10 minutes prior, I had just read her description.
I mean, I've read her description, but like I've never met her. Like
you didn't meet her. All you have are bits of things you get from your partner, right?
Yeah.
Like there's no pictures, but you know, Olivia might have mentioned her hair color or her piercings. You know, like these different things that you picked up and that you held on to from your partners, because all they could talk about was her.
Yeah,
my goofy ass missed that shit so hard.
It's fine. It worked out.
Mine too.
It worked out horribly in the end anyway.
It always does. Always does.
So one thing I wanted to mention with this, if it's okay.
No, of course not.
Fuck you, Bucho. So the thing with Jolene, and I tried to emphasize that quite a bit. I'm not sure how much of it came through because we didn't have everybody at the end. Jolene is not malevolent. This is not a lot of your typical like Call of Cthulhu, I want to destroy the world, or I'm trying to take over, or I want to kill people, or any of those things. Jolene doesn't care necessarily. She sees people as pets.
She's ambivalent.
Like she's the ocean for one thing, but she needs adoration. She needs love. Like a lot of these, like mermaids and sirens and so on, they need people to worship them, and she's that's her essentially, and that's why she takes someone, like sings her song and addicts them to her in every town. But they're like puppies. And when she's done with them and doesn't need them anymore, she's like, "Oh, you're just a pet. I don't need you anymore." And she walks out, not caring or even thinking about what happens to them. But if they follow her to the water, like Cam was trying to do, what Tommy did, and she sees them kind of begging for her, then she does what she did with Tommy, which is kind of like in movies, you know, where they put down horses with broken legs and things. She goes, "Oh, you poor thing. Okay, if that's what you want, that's okay." And then she drowns you, and you become part of her. Everyone who's ever drowned in the ocean is part of her. So like, she's not malevolent. She doesn't want to kill anybody. She doesn't think that we're worth her. It's like,
this is probably why this one felt more cerebral, like like having played through Saturday the 14th and
murder
and Safe Space, like. But here's the thing, like both of those are also still very cerebral in certain ways. This is more like playing the long game cerebral, where Saturday the 14th is like, it's layered cerebral, right? Where this is more like, the fuck is going on? Like it takes you a little longer to really figure out what's going on. Whereas with the others, I think it's easier to figure out what's going on. It's harder to figure out how to end it. Whereas this, it's a long game.
And guys, we're at 17 minutes. So just so we don't wind up doing a 30-minute talk back, because I already know how Bucho and I and Perry will for sure fucking do.
That's all.
Yeah, let's go around and do at least final impressions. Or it can be final impressions. It can be a final question, a thought, a compliment, anything you want. Your closing thoughts as we're out of here. We're going to start with Bucho because it's Bucho.
Two things. Rena, I will always play one of your fucking games every time. Carl, I will absolutely play with you any fucking time in the future.
Thank you.
That's all I have to say, because I had a good time, and when I have a good time with people, like, we typically have a good game. So yeah,
agreed. Perry.
So I want to compliment you, Bridget, for how you played Eli. The rational till the very end
that was great.
aspect of it, because it was beautifully done. It would be what you would expect. I would expect from someone in my profession to try and keep it rational as long as it possibly
as long as you could. Thank you.
I would say that at that ending, and especially with the coda on it, made me suddenly think of the Morcheeba song "Blood Like Lemonade."
Oh man, you brought up Morcheeba, homie.
Especially if you watch the video of that too.
Yep. I'm with you.
Kicking it up to Carl.
I don't have much to say other than what I said before. Thank you for the invite. It was an absolute blast playing with you guys. And I hope to do it again. And this is going to give me a lot of juice to keep working on my scenarios.
Yes! Yes! This was fun for an emotional roller coaster, which was really dope, because it dials into like not only the grief, but the whatever that layer of grief is that is associated with a missing person or something that's inexplicable. That level of grief, whatever like hole and suck that is, this scenario hovered within that, and that was really fun to play with, because I haven't been able to enjoy that in a Call of Cthulhu game in a really, really long time. And Rena, close us out.
I really enjoyed this cast. Y'all really enhanced especially the NPCs and the interactions, particularly the opening scene with Dot. I loved how y'all immediately got involved with things, especially you, Carl, jumping in to help on the soup line. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
And I really love how we all You all went in your different directions at the end, and we really got some interesting endings for everybody because it all worked out differently.
Yep.
I told you this was survivable, Bucho. I fucking told you.
Yeah,
but there are worse things than death. So I really enjoyed running this, and y'all were a fantastic group to run this scenario for. So thank you, Bridget.
Amazing. Oh, thank you so much for coming onto the platform again, babe. We really appreciate it. And because I did it on stream, we're going to do it again. Can I please get a Bucho face in 5, 4, 3, 2. Bye, Symphony backers. I love you guys. Mwah.